Okay. Hello, everyone. A very good evening, all of you. I hope I'm clearly audible and visible to you all. Before I just start, I'm just doing a small tech check so that I can just see whether I'm clearly audible and visible or not. And for the ones who are live right now, just give me a confirmation. Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me, see me? Okay, perfect. Fair enough. Okay. So, hello everyone, and once again, welcome to the YouTube channel of Get Set Law by IMS. So, I, with all the other mentors of Get Set Law IMS team, Shar sir, Sanjana ma'am, Gaurav sir is here, guys, to give you a proper depth analysis of the All India Open mock, or you will say All India Open SimCLAT, which took place last Sunday and even on the Monday, which took place at the offline centers of IMS. Uh, so this is a very good way of checking whether I am at par with the main CLAT exam or not. Okay. So I'm going to start with the way we have been doing it. So first we're going to take up the entire overall analysis of how does the paper look like, and taking a view from the students. The paper was not a go-to paper. Like if you'll compare it with the previous All India Open mock, which was SimCLAT 26, and if you will compare, their quantitative technique was more on the moderate to difficult side. Over here, it's on the easier side, as you can see. Okay. So a proper doable section was there. So if you would have attempted, you have made your own mark. Okay. But if I talk about the sections which is majorly legal, I personally went through the legal section. I somewhere thought of that it was not a go-to section, because somewhere the number of questions were not easily doable. Okay. Not because the topics were very difficult, it was not in that context, but somewhere the paragraphical the factual representation was a bit difficult, because the facts were more than 100 words or around 120 words. So that is why the overall difficulty level for legal reasoning is moderate. So in total, the questions were not 32, they were 28. The major chunk moved towards current affairs, which will be taken up by another GK current affair mentor. So in legal, the overall attempt was, if it has been between 24 to 25, if you would have left one or two questions, very good. The good score coming around to 22 to 23, that is what you should have approached. So now you see 4-5 marks ka, there is this good gap which is happening over there. Okay. When we talk about logical reasoning section, it is at par with legal only, but the number of questions, 2 questions increased in the logical reasoning section. Again, the marks and the attempts were somewhere similar, 1 or 2 questions up and down. Okay. English comparatively in the previous mocks, which was moderate, यहाँ पे थोड़ा easy to moderate है, which is a go-to section. But a few students have made it a point कि sir, it was not that easy for us. So definitely our English and verbal mentor, we're going to take it forward to you people. So be remain with us in this entire session. Don't miss it out, everyone. Okay. Uh, Before I just go ahead, a small check, please, everyone. Give me a yes or a thumbs up. Am I clearly audible and visible or not? Come on. All the viewers who are live right now, can I just have a check who all are there? Hello, everyone. Okay, perfect. Okay. So that was in contrast with English again. So good score around 19 to 20. That means 3-4 question ka there is still what a scope. Either maybe you could have done wrong or you could have left it. But current affairs thoda sa moderate to hard proof in comparison with the previous All India Open SimCLAT. And before we go ahead, you guys already know that in this month is a very crucial month, and we are going to have one more All India Open mock. The link is provided in the description below. Don't miss it out, guys. That is a way you can check your rank at an All India level, where thousands of students appear for our sim test, and it is trending in the market right now. And the students want to go for the sim test given by IMS Gets It Law. So don't miss it, that chance. The link is there in the description. It will be provided in the chat box also. If you demand, you can comment us. We'll share it over there. And even on the Telegram also it's provided. So go check it out, the latest All India Open mock before the main exam. Okay. So moderately to hard it was there. Okay. Now let's talk about the legal reasoning section. Okay. So the first paragraph. So if we'll talk about all the topics which were there were total 5 paragraphs which were there. So 3 paragraphs, six questions each. That is how this have been formulated. So that is 18, and 2 paragraphs, five each. So that is how 10. So total 5 paragraphs were there. 5 passages were there to solve. The first one on the doctrine of basic structures. You have already known about that topic, but the paragraph forming was a bit lengthy. That's why I've kept it on the moderate side. But since the topic was relatable, an easy one. Now you see, ki sir, all 5 questions moderate, the answer is yes. The only reason is, even if there were one-liner questions, one-liner means that which of the following is relatable, or which of the following in context, in the statements going with what the given in the paragraph, the options were like a 2-liner and a 1.5-liner. So us wajah se it has become moderate. It would have taken up your time. So majorly like 7 minutes, 6 minutes, this would have drained you up. Okay? If you would have chosen it at the initial part. Now, the later part, 3, 4, and the 5, these were the questions of factual based questions, proper fact, 90 to 100 words mein the, and a bit close options. Okay. Similarly, on the line with the previous All India Open. Talking about the second paragraph, again, the number of questions raised to 6, to initial 5. This was related with wagering contracts. So if you would have already known about it, wagering contracts का concept पता होगा, contract पढ़ा ही है आप लोगों ने, नहीं पढ़ा तो just go and revise these concepts, because CLAT 2021 में contracts were there, and even in the previous paper also void agreements were there. So contract became the important section. So that's why we just gave it up. But not a very easy going section, because wagering contracts at times becomes difficult to understand it. And if you know the concept, you would have read it, but still it was on the moderate side. 2 questions were easy ones because वो example form में थे, which of the following wagering हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा है. That is in relation with that it was. But if I talk about the remaining 4 questions, उसमें proper factual based था, lengthy part था, इसी वजह से I kept it moderate, and the options were a bit confusing. Only 2 questions where there was confusing options, not much. Okay. Let's go to the third paragraph, which was related with the law of maintenance. Now, what is maintenance means in contrast with the Hindu personal law? We already know about these provisions. You must have studied under the family law, so it's known. Again, the formation of the paragraph was on the difficult, on the moderate side. Only the reason was the framing of the paragraph. Okay. The overall, the entire a go-to question was there, but only one question was approachable, like the third one, which was easy one, but the remaining one were moderate. But I could have seen it from the students when we have seen the students who have attempted the paper. They have given us a feedback, sir, legal was a doable one. The number of questions, even we have kept it near about 25, 24 attempt good tha. 2-3 question में which were the moderate, and even somewhere अगर आपको difficult लगा तो you could have left it one. ठीक है. Then next is talk about the abrogation of Article 370. So the topic is known. We have already heard about it. Article 370 में movie भी देखा होगा something. But again, the framing of the paragraph, the reading became difficult for those students who have not been in touch with the legal article. So for the students with Get Set Law IMS, we have our weekly magazines which are provided to the students, and usme these all topics are there. They read more about it. So it was not difficult for them. That's why, keeping in contrast with the IMS students, we have kept it on the moderate. But if someone would have been outside IMS would have given the paper, uske liye paper tough gaya hoga for the legal reasons. Only one question was easy. The remaining one were the moderates. Yeah. Also in the previous session, one of the viewer have raised a point, sir, we want a depth analysis. We understand you want a depth analysis, you want the questions to be solved. But if you go and check our test series and get access to these mocks, the best part is you're going to get the video solutions out of it. Okay. And not every institute provide that thing. So IMS का एक बहुत ही important feature which is being there. So you still have time. You can go and check to those sessions जो already है. You can go and watch the video solutions about it, which is explicitly for the students who are given the marks. Okay. So that's why we just wanted an overall analysis. That's why we just limit our sessions to this only. Okay. So overall sections moderate here. The number of questions, जो उसमें 6 questions है, these were on the moderate part. Talking about this particular paragraph, the topic was not a very easy or a known one, because this is related with the rights of the lawyers, whether they can strike or not, because these are the professionals, can they do so or not? They do have the right, the fundamental right कि you can definitely freely speak कर सकते हैं, but the topic is not very relatable like you read in the, and also constitution के topic बहुत ज़्यादा topic known होते हैं, relatable रहते हैं, but जब read करने में आते हैं तो a lot many students say this thing. So that's why थोड़ा सा moderate था, and overall it came out to be the moderate one. ठीक है. So now I'm going to keep a halt to the legal section, because now I'm going to call our quant faculty, Tushar sir, to take the session ahead. But you guys have to be there in the session till the end. It's not a very long session, so be here. And if you are there on the channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe. Okay. So, thank you so much, guys. But we remain in the session.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I'm Tushar Joshi, your quant mentor in IMS. So let's go through this SimCLAT analysis, All India Open Mock, which was SimCLAT 27 for IMS students. So if we look at the quantitative technique section, last time when we discussed the SimCLAT, it was more on a difficult side. Means I said that the calculation requirement was more, the time required in the sets was more. So more or the less the questions were calculation intensive. Whereas if you look at this SimCLAT, both the sets were easily doable. So I have kept the attempts that you should have done in this quantitative technique section of this SimCLAT. I have kept the number of attempts to 10, because I did not see any question that you could have missed out. If you would have read the passage properly, noted down all the values properly, there was hardly any question which you should have missed out on. Okay, so I have kept good attempts at 10 and good score considering 10 to 20% error. If you would have got around 7 marks, that would have been really good. Okay, so 6 to 7 marks were definitely achievable in both these sets. Okay. So if we look at the sets now, the first passage or first set was based on number of employees in 3 departments of 2 companies X and Y. Okay, some 3 departments were given to you, and it is a typical question on combination of percentage and ratio that you can expect in actual CLAT also. Okay, so it is a very, you can say it is a bread and butter question for the exam setter when it comes to quantitative technique section. Percentage and ratio. If you look at the last 5 years of CLAT, you can see almost 70% of the questions are based on percentage and ratio. Okay, so it is a go-to question. Everyone must be able to do it at this stage. Okay, so the questions were based on concepts of percentage and ratio, and some fraction values were given. So basic calculations. So again, if you have good calculation speed, if you know tables, so several times we have discussed that everyone must know tables up to 25 at least for improvement of your calculation. So most of the calculations you can do orally and it will save your time. Okay. So in first passage, I have kept the level of difficulty easy because there was nothing out of the box in this particular set. So it was a scoring passage for sure. So if you see, question number 1 was, I have kept it easy because it was, if you go through the passage, write down all the values, calculate all the values, then it was a direct question, question number 1 and 2. Now question number 3 and 4, I have kept moderate just for the fact that it required some calculation compared to other questions. So that's why they are moderate. But however, a good student who has practiced sufficient number of questions on percentage and ratio should have been able to do these questions as well. They were not at all difficult concept wise, only comparatively more calculation or little bit lengthier question was there. That's why we have kept it at moderate level, right? Fifth question also again we have kept in easy category. So if you see three easy questions, so at least three questions everyone must have been able to solve at this point of your preparation. So this passage was definitely a scoring one, minimum score 3, but at times you could have attempted all the 5 questions. Okay. If we look at the next passage now, the next set was based on composition of different protein supplement powders. Okay, so some brands were given to you, then how much percentage of protein is there, then ratio of carbohydrates, vitamins, right? These types of composition in that particular protein supplement brand or powder was given in the passage. So again, if you make a table, note down all the brands, make columns of protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, and all, and note down all the values, then again it was a very, very easy set. It was definitely a doable set, again based on the concepts of percentages and ratio. Okay, so this particular set also, once you get all the values, the questions were easily manageable, right? So even if you look at two sets, I would say around 20 minutes would have been sufficient for a good student to complete both the sets. 20 minutes would have been more than sufficient to complete both the sets, all the 10 questions. Okay. So level of difficulty again I have kept easy because no new concept was tested. Percentage and ratio, which is again go to topic. Question 1, 2, 3. All I have kept easy because again once you get the data, once you make the table, they were more or less the direct questions, question number 1, 2, and 4. However, question number 3 and 5 again comparatively more calculation intensive. However, not difficult questions. If you read question properly, there was hardly any chance of making a mistake there. Okay, so I would say again, minimum 3 questions everyone must have done in this set also. So that's why minimum 6 is a score that was achievable, easily achievable in these two sets of QT. Okay, so that's it. So I hope everyone have attempted all these questions from both the sets of QT section of this SimCLAT, and 6 to 7 marks was definitely achievable, and many students who are good at basic calculations of percentage ratio, they would even score 9 or 10 in this particular QT section. Okay, so that's it from my side. Bye bye everyone. So stay connected in the session.
Hello. Hi everyone. Now we are going to discuss the current affairs section of SimCLAT 27. So let's start with the first passage. 1 second. Yeah. So the first passage was about 138 Constitutional Amendment Bill. So let's start discussing the current affairs and general knowledge section of SimCLAT 27. So in SimCLAT 27, we had 5 passages. The first passage was related to 130 Constitutional Amendment Bill, and there were 6 questions in this passage. The other was related to Conference of Parties Stockholm Convention, right? Third was related to Starlink and the Indian telecom industry. Fourth, Global Peace Index and its ranking, the countries in it, the top performing countries and the lowest performing countries were there. And the last passage was one of the passage on the difficult side. So let's start discussing the first passage. Passage number 1 is Constitutional Amendment Bill. The first question, it asked about the articles that are there. Article 75, 164, and 239A. It could be termed as a moderate question because, as per the CLAT pattern, you don't have to remember the article number, but there are certain important articles, such as in the Fundamental Right, Article 21, 20, 22. Article 14, right to equality, that you should know, but these are some niche article which you don't need to know. But we have included it in the passage to make you study in different directions of that particular topic. 138 Constitutional Amendment Bill is going to be one of the most important topic for this CLAT examination because we have seen that CLAT asks questions from major amendments, major bills that are passed, right? So this question, this passage, this topic would be an important topic. The second question and the third question, it directly asks you about section of Representation of People's Act and about different case laws. Not a question that could be asked in CLAT examination. So we term it as a difficult section. If you don't know what is the question and what is the answer to this question, it's okay. Don't judge your preparation level as per this, basing on this 2 questions, right? Question number 28, 29, and 30 in the mock test, 4th, 5th, and 6th. So this, if 138 Constitutional Amendment Bill is going to be there in your CLAT examination, so this question will be there. Which question ki how many amendments have been made in Constitution? And the answer is 106, an easy question. 29 and 30 is kind of inference based or understanding based question regarding the amendments, which, right? 29th and 30. 29th is related to the passage only. You will get the answer by understanding the passage. So not so easy, not so hard, on a difficult. It is not on the difficult side. It is a moderate question. And last question is an important question. You should know it, as to which of the following article could not be amended by the parliament with simple majority. So polity. Polity is an important topic. You must have read it in legal reasoning, legal aptitude, and also in GK. So this question could be of a polity question, can be asked in legal aptitude as well or in GK or current affairs. Now, the next passage is 1 second. Uh, Now the next passage, Conference of Parties to Stockholm Convention. So we have read about different conventions as well, and this passage is on a moderate to difficult level. Now let's see the first and third question, 31st and 33rd. These two questions are easy questions in this passage. Ki where the 12th meeting of Conference of Parties was held. So whenever we read about a summit or a conference or a convention, the first two, three questions are where was it held? What was the theme? So the third question, 33rd question is about the theme of that particular convention. So first and third question is fairly easy. You should know about it. Second question, which institution acts as the trustee of Global Environment Facility? It is a niche question, not directly connected to this topic, but that's why we have kept it at a moderate level. 34th, 35th, and 36th question, 4th, 5th, 6th. It goes on a different direction. It is talking about different topics which are connected to Stockholm Convention and also talking about the different conventions that are there, such as Basel Convention, Rotterdam Convention, and Stockholm Convention. The CLAT aspirants cannot be expected to know about this topics and these conventions. That's why we have kept it at a difficult level. These three questions. Let's move to the third passage. Passage number 3, Indian Telecom. This passage is about the telecom companies and the Starlink connection, right? Two questions are on a easier side. Which companies have signed a deal with SpaceX? This question could be asked in ALET SLAT as well. This could be a one-liner question. Which companies have signed a deal with SpaceX to bring Starlink satellite to India? The answer is Airtel and Jio. An easy question. 38th also. What is the architecture behind this satellite? It is also an easy question. When you read about the Starlink, you will also read about these three topics as well, these 3 points as well. But the other question, 4th to 8th, these are some topics, these are some questions which are from a niche topic, and that's why we have kept it on a moderate to difficult level. Now, 40th question number 4th here, 40th question. This could be asked in a single line question in ALET or SLAT. You should know about it, right? Question number 41 as well, 5th question. The other 3 questions, 6th, 7th, and 8th, difficult, moderate to difficult level question cannot be expected. We can't expect you to know these questions, but you should include it. The reason why we are giving these questions in GK is that you should also include these topics, these questions in your notes, because you are not going in that direction to read upon these topic. That's why we are giving this question. You should include it in your notes, right? So all in all, passage 3 was on the easier to moderate side, right? Now let's move to fourth passage. Passage number 4, Global Peace Index. With summits, international topics, indexes are one of the most important topics that are asked in CLAT. There are certain 8 to 10 indexes that are there: Human Rights Index, Press Index, Global Peace Index, etc., about which you should know. Now let's talk about this passage. Question number 1, 2, and 4th. First talks about which one is the safest country in Asia. So when you read about an index, you will read about India's rank, the highest ranking country, the lowest ranking country, who publishes this index, right? So all of these questions, first, second, and fourth, it talks about India's rank, who publishes this index, and which one is the highest ranking country in Asia or in the world. That's why 1, 2, and 4 are on the easier side. Question number 3, it talks about the least 3 peaceful countries. Which country is present in that? So the options were Russia, Ukraine, Sudan, and Afghanistan. If you wouldn't know which country is there, you could have eliminated the 2 countries, 3 countries, and then reached to an answer that is Afghanistan. So it is on a difficult to moderate side. 49th and 50th question. the headquarters of that particular organization which publishes this index. We generally read about the headquarters for important organizations, but not for all the organizations, right? So, reading about this for Economics and Peace, its headquarters is on a niche side. We won't read about it, but you should include this particular fact in your notes, in the notes of Global Peace Index, ki where is the headquarter of this particular organization. That's why we have kept this question number 5, on a moderate level. Question number 6 is, on which grounds countries are given their rankings, right? So I have seen that student, they don't read about these grounds or the domains from which the country using which the countries are given the rankings. 50 question number 50, 49, 48, all of the question in this passage are important questions. This passage 4 is one of the most easy to moderate question in this whole paper. You should include each and every fact from this passage in your notes for Global Peace Index. Right? One of the most important question for CLAT 2026. Now let's move to passage number 5, last passage. International Organization for Marine Aids to Navigation. One of the niche topics. Most of you must have not covered this topic, right? So if you haven't covered this topic, you have now this top. You have this topic now, and you should include this topic in your notes. First question, it talks about which year was IALA organization was founded. We generally read about the foundation year, headquarters, etc. So this is an direct question from this particular organization. Now the other 4 questions in this passage. Now the other 4 questions in this screen, it talks of the motto of that particular organization and the assembly, the frequency of meeting of these assembly, right? We are not going to read about this particular international organization for marine aids to navigation. Most students, they leave this organization. That's why we have included this organization in our passage of SimCLAT 27, right? So each and every fact from this particular passage you should include in your notes so that you are prepared with this topic, right? Now, I request the other mentor, Sanjana, to start with their analysis of SimCLAT 27. Thank you so much, students.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm your verbal ability mentor, Sanjana ma'am. And let's quickly analyze the English language and the logical reasoning section of SimCLAT 27. Now, first things first, there is like a small variation this time around, and that is to do with the number of questions in each section. Generally, it's 24 for each of English language and logical reasoning. This time around, we had 24 questions intact for English language. However, for the logical reasoning section, it was 26 questions, just to sort of give you a curveball of sorts, right? Okay, so let's take a look at English language. On the whole, this I would label as easy to moderate, right? For the last couple of, All India SimCLATs, you must have noticed that English was actually on the moderate side of things when it comes to describing the level of difficulty. This time around, this was easy to moderate, okay? Take a look at the first passage, and this is an article on Margaret Atwood. Level of difficulty here is moderate. Question 1, inference, moderate. There are a lot of inference questions because inference questions reign supreme in CLAT examination, right? Question 2, again, moderate. Then there was a specific detailed question. Now, I can also tell you that I also labeled this as a moderate passage. That's because, firstly, it talks about literature. Secondly, it talks about The Handmaid's Tale. It was a very popular series on it, by the way. So for the ones who are not really into literature, you might just find it really boring and monotonous. You might not be able to make sense of what the passage is trying to say. Hence, it would give it the illusion of being maybe slightly difficult to comprehend. right? But the specific detail question was easy. Another inference-based question here, it was moderate. Then we had a vocabulary, which was cui bono. It's a Latin phrase, right? So if you've already done foreign phrases well, you wouldn't need to really understand the phrase here in the context given, right? But this again was moderate because what if you didn't know the meaning of it? Then you'd really have to rummage through the information in the passage, right? And then we had a primary purpose question, easy to moderate because there was an option which I felt would still have left you feeling a bit perplexed, right? And then we had another inference-based question. So all in all, for this particular passage, there were 7 questions in total. A good attempt here would be 5 to 6, right? It's equally possible. Let me add, it's equally possible that you might score a full 7 here as well. But I think a score of 5 to 6 is also quite decent here, right? Take a look at the next passage. Now, this was again a narrative passage, but a fairly easy read. However, you just had to sort of assume some information this time around. Like you wouldn't easily know that Raju, who's the main character here in the story, is actually a pickpocketer, right? So, Trail on the Green Blazer, that's the title of the passage. Overall, easy to moderate, fun read, but there were some questions which could have left you feeling a little perplexed. There was a specific detail question, a lot of specific detail questions this time around. Then a conclusion based question, right? And then there was an antonym based, again, a vocab based question, which was easy. I think the word was harrowed, and you had to figure out the antonym of the word harrowed, right? Harrowed is when you feel really jittery and agitated. And then there was a question, the topic of which was sensory imagery, which means that with all the backdrop information that was provided in the passage, what do you really think, the tone of the setting was, which was that it was really chaotic with a lot of like noise and, just loud sounds, right? So this was easy, which is why I've labeled this as easy. And then there was a tone-based question. I think the option was that he's really cynical and pragmatic. Now, I feel why this is moderate is because it might have become slightly difficult to understand what is so pragmatic about Raju as the pickpocketer, but he was actually evaluating the monetary aspect of the fountain pen and the watch. This is for the ones who have actually gone through the passage wholly and remember the information, right? So he was being really practical about it. And also slightly cynical. He's not upbeat. He's not really excited for his trade, right? And then there was an inference question, easy to moderate. This one, if at all you wanted, you could have left one question, although I don't feel there was a need to. This could have easily been a full scorer, according to me, right? Now, well, take a look at the next passage. Now, this was actually a critique of the UCC bill, right, passed by the Uttarakhand government. Now, this was an easy passage on the whole. A main idea slash main concern, main argument question of an easy level. A couple of inference based questions, again, easy to moderate. Whenever I'm mentioning a particular question as easy to moderate, as in the level of difficulty, that is not to say that you won't be able to solve it. You might just feel a little jittery while solving it. Like it's not an outrightly easy thing to solve, right? And then we had a couple of specific detail questions, based on the information or a certain statement is taken from the passage itself, and the question is asking you to decode what it means, or maybe just choose an option that would give you the best inference from it. And then there was an application based question. On the whole, it was of an easy level, right? A good attempt here would be 5, considering that you might make a silly mistake here and there, right? And having said that, let's take a look at the last passage for English language, which is the future of music is a love story. Now, this is actually authored by Taylor Swift, so everybody must already be well familiarized with it. This again was an easy passage. First question, application based. Then there was a question which was asking you to figure out the biggest challenge for artists, which I believe, like if you've read the passage properly, was that, it's often a challenge these days to connect with the listeners on a very emotional level, right? So easy again. Direct question again, easy. Then there was a weekend question, right? Which was easy, and another inference question of an easy to moderate level, right? Here also, let's just say if we leave room for one question where you can make a silly mistake, a good attempt rate here would be 4 to 5. But this time around for English language, 24 questions. A good attempt rate would be 21 to 22. A good score can be 19 to 21. It can also be 19, it can be 20. It just depends on the number of questions you get wrong, actually. But it's equally possible for the ones who are really good at this to be able to score close to 21, 22 also, because this has happened previously also. We always have, some of those students who are able to do really well in English language, despite it becoming moderate or difficult. Okay. Now, let's finally decode the logical reasoning section. This time around, for me particularly, I felt this would be of a moderate level, and maybe you could even find a lot of questions here which must have been difficult to solve. Okay. So the level of difficulty, like I mentioned, for the first passage, decision making. I think last time around, which is SimCLAT 26, also the first passage was decision making. We're just including a lot of decision making because we're just trying to leave, no stone unturned here. In CLAT 2025, there was a decision making oriented passage in 24 also, right? So we just want you to be fully prepared with it. And this time around, we're actually giving you very complex questions also, questions that will just make you feel a little confused as to like, why are we having these questions framed in the first place? Okay, so I think just to give you a quick recap of the passage, it was just about, the peace and stability that the district magistrate has to maintain in a town. And he is really caught in a conflict, which is sustaining the religious freedom and at the same time following the state directive, right? So the first question was a core dilemma. Now, this was a moderate level question. I think there is a likelihood that a lot of you might have just chosen a different option altogether, which is why I was like, I have to label this as a moderate question, right? And then there were, on the whole, questions of an easy to moderate level only. So the important ones, which I felt like are really new topics, I have chosen to mention it here. Okay. Perception bias, this was the part. And you see, of all the analysis that I've done thus far, I've only labeled this question as a moderate to difficult because, like if you actually go to the video explanation also, which I would really request you do, right? You'll understand that understanding that last line, there's also this concern that the DM is faced with about perception bias. You need to understand what that perception bias is. Only when you understand is when you'll be able to solve the question correctly, right? So this, if you're able to get it, you have some really good decision making skills, or let's just say interpretation skills, right? So question 6, easy. Question 7, easy to moderate. 7 questions in total here. Maybe it's possible that a lot of you might just get 4, 5 correct only, but that in itself is also a feat that I would appreciate, right? So on the whole, moderate level. Take a look at passage 2, which talked about life beyond Earth. The author is contemplating if there's a possibility life can exist beyond Earth also. Again, moderate, because some questions were sort of tricky. There was a primary goal question, very easy. You can easily eliminate the options. And an inference question, moderate to difficult. It really was. Okay, so we have another question, which was actually for moderate to difficult level. Then we had a strengthen question, a weaken question. It depends. Like if you're really confident about strengthening and weakening the argument, it's possible for you to solve both these questions correctly. Application-based question, easy to moderate. There was an analogy question also, right? So this too, I feel analogy question in the sense like what is the reasoning used in the second paragraph, right? Moderate level. You just need to have a very thorough understanding of the passage, and you also need to have a very thorough understanding of the fundamentals of critical reasoning, because very often we just go with the flow while solving a certain passage and we sort of just forget that, okay, sometimes we also have these technicalities associated with critical reasoning, fundamentals here. So that's also there. And then we had a logical relationship between, the first and the last passage or something like that, I remember. This was easy. This was really easy. So again, here a good attempt rate would be 5 to 6. But still, I would feel like on the whole, logical reasoning this time around would have been a challenge. Then the third passage here. This was an easy read because the topic is something we're quite familiar with. It talks about the increasing hostility between the US and Russia, right? The first question, inference based, easy. Then there's a direct question, a fundamental contradiction, which is like, what is a contradiction talked about in the passage? Easy to moderate. Again, you see, all the questions here for the most part are easy only. Strengthen, easy to moderate, right? So this was doable here. It's possible that you might get all the 6 questions answered correctly, right? And the last one, again, like we always try to include analytical reasoning also in logical reasoning. This time around, it wasn't exactly of an easy level because for the most part in all India SimCLATs, we are giving arrangement-based questions. This time around, it was based on grouping. So if you have been able to tackle that topic effectively, answering most of the questions would be not a very difficult feat. The first 2 questions are easy. but the last four, you really have to think a little deeper about it, right? So on the whole, a good attempt rate here would be 5, right? 4 to 5 itself, right? A good score can be 3 to 4. This was moderate. So that's about the logical reasoning section. 26 questions in total. And a good attempt rate here would be 22 to 23, which means that a good score can be 21 to 22, could also be 23, accounting for the negatives, right? So this was moderate, right? So having said that, that's it from our end, guys. I hope you understood the session. You found the analysis helpful. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. I'll end the session with that.